Yeah, welcome to another edition of the M65 FM podcast. My guest today is Keith Atherton, and yeah, I have to write it a little bit down. What do you all do? He is a Power Platform A solution architect, Microsoft MVP for business applications, certificate to Microsoft trainer, 11 uh, certificated professional. So I think that's the link, the Microsoft certifications. LinkedIn learning instructor, public speaker, founder of the Power Platform community, High Five user group, host of the On Air in the Cloud podcast, and a mentor of the Women in Power platform. Yeah, in this episode, we will explore the future of Power Apps, how AI is reshaping app development, and the rise of vibe coding, and how makers and developers can build business applications faster than ever before. So, have I forgotten anything?
I don't know if I've got time for anything else. I think you've got everything there.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I don't think so. There's so many people, but for the people discovering you for the first time, what's your background and how did you get into Microsoft technology?
Yeah. Thanks, Mirko. And thanks for having me on the show. I'm a fan already, so it's great to be on the podcast. Yeah, a bit of background about me. As you say, I'm Keith Atherton. I'm a Power Platform solution architect. That's my main role in my day job. I work for Capgemini, one of the large consultancies and Microsoft partners. The way it started for me is really a long, long time ago when I graduated from a science degree. I wanted to go into programming, and the first job I had, it was a mixture of different technologies, but the Microsoft tech stacks kept coming back again and again. It was more pro dev for me. That's been the majority of my career up until the last 4 years or so. But it would always come around to either a Visual Basic or a .NET or a
Mm.
SQL Server. There'd always be some kind of Microsoft tech in there as the main theme. And then the majority of my career was internal development for many organizations in different sectors. Again, maybe focusing mostly on .NET and SQL Server. So when I started a new job about four years ago, they asked me in week one, say, well, you could work on these different things, but could you look at Power Apps? And I was completely new to the Power Platform. But again, part of the Microsoft tech stack integrated well with other Microsoft tools like SQL Server and many Azure services as well. So I thought, yep, let's have a look. And it's something where I really enjoyed using it. I can build solutions very, very quickly. That low code, no code approach. So really, I just sort of doubled down on that Power Platform, and recently Copilot Studio since then.
Yeah, was there a aha moment where you realized Power Apps was going to become your major force in business development, or?
Well, that's a great question because it was something that got me hooked, which was when I was doing, again, pro dev projects, either web apps or WinForm apps. I would actually do a similar build again and again. It would be a similar kind of structure to the apps. And there was even one at one point, I even made like a scaffolding system that would actually create the template of an app based off a data model, almost like a very, very basic version of a model driven app, because I could see myself repeating the same tasks again and again to build up the basics of an app and all the back end with all the data functions as well. So yeah, when I came to do work on some Power Apps, I just built some internally for the organization I was working for, and I found that once I'd upskilled past those basics and could create them, I could create them much faster than I could create a pro code app. So for me, the appeal was there of, oh, this is good. I can turn around and learn quicker myself. I can turn around proof of concepts or prototypes or even full builds for customers even quicker. And they kind of do the same thing, the forms, the grids, the usual line of business things. I could do the same thing, but much, much faster. And that was part of the appeal for me. So I thought, well, at the end of the day, it's what the customers want. It's something useful for them. And if I can just do the same thing, but quicker, or 95% of the same thing, but much quicker, then I'm sold. This is a platform I want to learn more about.
Yeah, I think you have also different roles. So you're a trainer, consulting, architect, and the community leadership. How do you view on the platform from your different perspectives.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've always enjoyed helping others, which I think is where the training comes from. I like the coaching, the training, and sharing that knowledge with others. And then that's led me to formalizing that into becoming a Microsoft certified trainer because I'm doing training already. So I thought I'll
Mhm.
do that to kind of improve my skills and get even better at it if I can. And then that helps us, as a consultant as well. How can we help customers? It's essentially helping people, but I'm using tech. And so I think a lot of them they kind of are all interconnected, if you like. It's helping others either by building them something or showing them how to build things themselves or going on a stage now and again. I'll go to an event and present and again share that knowledge with others so they can then build those systems. I think it all kind of interlinks in a way. So yeah, whenever I find something new or cool, or a bit like today, seeing how Power Apps are evolving going forward, and the new vibe code options in different parts of the system is, hey, it's great to share this because I'm learning from others who share it with me as well. So it's like helping the community as a whole, which I really love.
What actually, or what excited you most about the current direction of Power Apps?
I think one of the main things that has jumped out to me is that the way low code is going is changing a bit. So when I first started with Power Apps a few years ago and I saw things like Canvas apps, I thought I can just drag and drop controls on the screen. Very easy. It's like I'm using PowerPoint or something. It's straightforward. And I thought, oh, this is great. It's much quicker than, hey, let me write pages of code to get to the same thing. I think recently when I saw some new things like the generative pages in Power Apps, that was one of the first ones I came across where, hey, you can use a Copilot type experience just to describe what you want, describe that page, and then it will generate the page. And, as well as that, around the same time, we've had things like Vibe apps in Power Apps. We've had code apps in Power Apps that all have similar experiences where you just provide that prompt. You don't even need to drag and drop things. You just say, I want a button in the top left of the screen, and it will just do it. So I do like that. It's become even easier than the drag drop, and it can do more sophisticated things now. So I think that was a turning point for me when a Copilot type experience really became useful and gave good results.
Mhm. And when you look ahead, I would say we are tech, so not for those 3 or 5 years. Let's say 6 months. What do you think the Power Apps become?
You think going forward in the future?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think more of this kind of vibe coding experience, this code where you provide the prompt and then you see things being built. I think there's a really good tool there. Like I said, people might be new to this, but one of them is Vibe Apps, or the Power Apps Vibe Experience, it's known as. And this is really where when you go to the web page to create Power App, you can then have a Copilot type prompt. You describe what you want. You can even upload your requirements from a project if you want, or a screenshot, things like this, and then it will go ahead and build a single app based on that. So I think things along those lines, where you've got this kind of easy to use experience, is a good way to go, and it keeps things low code for people who are maybe non-technical, citizen developers, citizen makers, people who work within the organization who don't have coding experience. So I think more things might go along that way where it's easy for anyone to pick up. And then if you do get any kind of geeky person like me who likes the code, okay, then they're able to open it in Visual Studio Code or something else to tweak the code and make like little tweaks and adjustments if they need. But I think something that's then the starting point of something that anyone can use, I think that, that way going forward is going to be the most useful for everyone, I think.
And are we moving toward to a world where every business user become a developer, or did you think that's a little bit too much?
Great question, because I know when Power Apps was in the early days, and the idea that Microsoft and many other low code providers out there, there's some great other systems as well as Microsoft. is that their idea is to democratize app development and solution development. Sometimes it might be a Power Automate Cloud Flow to automate something. And I think again, maybe the goal there is to open this up instead of going to a busy development team who has to build everything. You can build your own apps with drag drop, and there are some cool new things in the Microsoft 365 Copilot, like the app builder as well. It still feels a bit early days, but a way of, hey, I want to create a basic app with a few grids and a form. I would just describe what I need, and it gives me the basics of that, like a starting point. So I think, yeah, maybe in future it will be that it's just open to all. And then again, if you need to extend it with someone with a bit deeper technical knowledge, like me or you or anyone with coding experience, it can then be extended if needed using those skills.
Mm. And how is AI changing the expectation around app development speed? I have the feeling now the companies think they get an enterprise solution in one day.
I really it's changing so fast. I think the way that vibe coding, and that's the term used for now. I don't know if people might change that term in future. I think the way that's going is really cool. And in fact, very recently on my user group, the one you mentioned kindly, is the Power Platform Community High Five. It's an online user group that me and a friend of mine, Sarah Jones, runs every month. There was a really good session by Franco Mosso about Power Pages development very recently, and he was showing that using Claude, other tools were available, but by using Claude Code, he was able to create something within 1 hour that would have taken him manually maybe 2 weeks to create. So as you say, you might have customers or your organization saying, great, so you can turn around work much quicker. But as you say, there's also the side of, well, do we need the human in the loop to review that code, or at least the structure? Or do we just ask AI to review the code? There's a few options there, and maybe testings. I've seen a few vibe coded websites over the last few months with non-technical people who mean really well. They've used different platforms, but they've maybe not added the testing or done manual testing as well. And some things like registration or password resets or other things are just not working, not working properly. So I think it may be, hey, we can turn around something quick, maybe even a POC or something for pre-sales, but to really make it production ready, it needs to have like really thorough testing to say, we've not manually written all the code, but let's make sure that code works as expected. So maybe we'll be doing more on the testing side in future than the development side. Who knows?
Yeah, it is awesome. It's so many changing. I have used Microfiche, yeah, for a few days, and run how can I develop my podcast, and it's generated I think up to 1,000 companies, real companies, and look and 12,000 customers, and you can get a report, and they talk. Then you see, okay, this could be development. It's what the target group. It's so awesome what the technology can do actually. And the funny part is the guy who built this, and I think a lot of research companies getting yeah in panic.
No.
It's only he only did it in 10 days, so this is really, really awesome. But
Wow.
yeah, what did you think or which role do Copilot and generative AI play, inside Power Platform ecosystem today?
There's so many places I can see it being introduced. And it's a really good point because Power Platform, and again, I know many other systems out there getting this introduction of early on, a couple of years ago, when I'm creating a Canvas app and I'm writing the code, which is Power FX for a Canvas app, there's ways where they introduce the Copilot experience to say, hey, if you type in a comment, this is a function that does ABC, then that code could be auto-generated off your comment. So it's like you've prompted and what you want the code to be, or you might be able to use the Copilot experience the other way to say, here's a block of code, explain to me what does that code do. So I could see these kind of entry points coming in of starting to use AI to try and assist the developers, the makers, and then the other way around as well for the end users, providing a Copilot prompt for them to say, query your data instead of doing lots of filtering and sorting and trying to figure it out, you could say, you know, how many of these orders are outstanding, and then it would give us the answers and even give us a chart or a visual to help us see that as well. So I think some more of those are coming into play. I see more and more of those, like, additions here. There's a big thing quite recently as well, where there's been a blending between the app side and the agent side as well. So again, many apps where you can actually have an agent within to ask those questions, or, create me a chart based on this table of data, or ask other kind of queries of that data. And then the other way around, I'm seeing things like M365 Copilot, and other parts of Copilot where you can say, hey, add me a record into this system, and you could actually do some data manipulation there as well. So it's kind of a crossing over, and it's really for the end users to see what the right tool is for what they want to do. So that's one part. The other part, the second main part I see, is that developer experience in creating the solutions. So there's a really good thing, plans or plan designer, in the Power Platform, where you can say, hey, I need to build a solution. Let's say, for example, I'm running a podcast. I need to keep track of all of my shows, all of the guests. And then it might, what this plan designer does is it comes up with a design, say, okay, I think you need an admin app. You might need a Power Pages website for the guests to use. You might need a few reports, a few automations. And it would generate a proposal for that entire solution. And in many parts, to actually go ahead and create those, create the apps, create the flows. So things like that to help us as builders, again, can turn around solutions and apps much, much quicker. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and it feels like almost every week or every few weeks, new features are coming out. So it's
Yeah.
a full-time job to keep up. Yeah.
Normally, it's renamed once a year.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Uh,
new logos as well. Yeah.
Before we deep dive into the AI vibe coding topic, is actually, or what will you say, is there, did organizations organizations still misunderstand power apps actually?
There are some. It's a really good point, because as my job as a consultant and an architect, I kind of, how can I put this? I deal with customers or prospective customers at all different stages. Now, some of them might already be using a Power Platform, or they might have used it to a basic level, or they've only heard of it and they've not implemented it. And some, they have no knowledge of Power Platform or low code systems. So I find on many projects, there's that kind of, checking in with the customer and going on the journey with them to see what stage are they at? Do they want some upskilling on the platform? Sometimes it goes back to training. Say, look, we already have a team of developers, but they do pro dev. We want them to build our own power apps. We don't want you to build us the power up. We want to build it ourselves. Could you train us or prepare us for some of the Microsoft certifications so they can go ahead and build their own? So it's a really good point. I think that's one part, is where are they? Where the customer at the moment, and how can we help them on that journey, no matter what's right for them. But yeah, sometimes there are misconceptions of, there was one quite recently where they expected a Canvas app, excuse me, to kind of do everything for them. Like, hey, if I create the data model, can this just give me all the buttons to save the data, the notifications on the screen, give me the nice UI? It kind of, I think they were expecting the prompt experience to generate the whole thing, and they didn't realize they still had to drag and drop and build things up themselves there. So yeah, sometimes they might know enough, but maybe, uh, you know, know what the platform is, but not know what all the capabilities are. So again, it's something we try and help with.
Awesome. So you mentioned vibe coding. How do you define that?
It's a funny term, right? Vibe coding. I think when it got popular, I could see it as many ways where you describe what you want the app or system to do, and then generative AI will actually build it for you. It may be, again, it may be that, hey, build me a web page that does this. Hey, build me a power app that does this. And there's a few ways of doing it, but I think it's really explaining it, and then generative AI is writing the code. So it could be simple as like a very simple explanation. I want to power up that. does asset management. Or, my company, checks in and out laptops when people join, when they leave. Can you do that? We might have lots of requirements to say, here are my company's branding colors. Here's an upload of the logo for my company. I want that in the header at the very. So you could be very, very descriptive, or you might have a conversation back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's generative AI that's writing the code for you.
Mm, is I think I think a little bit about is for me is or the question is vibe coding a hype or it's changing how apps build, especially I think in I don't know, I think an enterprise solution or your bank or something. I I don't know. It's will yeah. Is it changing? So thinking about, well, what's about governance, security, and so on.
They're they're good points because, as you say, yeah, the security, the governance, it could be that, if you're using a tool, you're vibe coding something. For example, we've got Vision Studio Code. I'm using GitHub Copilot to build the code. It may be that, yeah, as you say, if I'm at the organization, say, well, if you write all the code by hand manually and you Google everything, you search for everything and you build it and it takes you days, but that same system is only going to take a few hours if you vibe code it. Why are you not vibe coding it? Because it's going to be much quicker. It might catch things you don't in the code. It might, deal with issues or edge cases or problems. So yeah, I think there's a good case for why vibe coding is good to use if you can. The time saved alone is brilliant. Um, and yeah, you're right. The governance, the tools. You might get things like shadow IT or shadow AI, where people are bringing in their own generative AI to say, the organization might say, hey, use GitHub Copilot or use ChatGPT, or just Copilot, so you can keep all the enterprise data protection, keep all the data within your tenant. But if anyone brings in outside tools and then your data goes outside of I don't know, a GDPR safe zone and it goes to US data centers for certain models, that could then very well be a big problem for the organization. So you're right, governance, security, it's really important to make sure that we comply by all the standards and regulations we've got. Otherwise, it could constitute things like data leaks, data breaches. So yeah, really good point.
Yeah, I have for 2 months I have talked to a company. There also was interested and I tell them all the security and governance, compliance, and risk and all the topics, and they say, okay, we have a solution. We cut down power apps, power automate. Then we have no risk. Then I say, okay, then we have the risk to build up shadow IT, but feel free. Yeah. Is there something or where does AI currently struggle when it's built a Power App? Is there something or is it perfect?
It's not perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's that's a great question because there are things where new models and new versions of models are coming out all the time, and I've seen different people report like, "Oh, this new model is now such a big improvement, but it's more expensive than the last model. I would never use the last model. I'd never use the last version." So it feels like there's an evolution at the moment. Like the models get better or they get more knowledgeable. The more dimensions, the more powerful. So there are things where it is improving. There's sometimes the Copilot experience that I mentioned before about writing the power effects. I think the early versions, sometimes it was good with basic code snippets, but something more advanced, it might struggle a bit. So then I would go separately to Copilot or another tool outside of the designer to actually, okay, this is a bit more complex. How would this work? And then bring it back into the designer, again in a safe, secure way. So there are some things where you can see improvements, and I think some things that I'm looking for improvements at the moment are some of them where maybe the UI is not quite what I need. So one of them I used recently called Generative Pages, which I think is really good, and it's improving all the time. There was a time fairly recently I used it. I uploaded a screenshot of the website. I play guitar. I love guitars. It was a guitar shop. It was online. It was a guitar website. I was like, okay, could you build this website as a generative page? Now, to be fair, it's quite complex. There was filters and categories and sorting and galleries and all sorts going on. But I thought I'll just push my luck. I'll be cheeky. I'll ask it. So I tried to do this in a generative page, and it just struggled. It was a big ask, but it did struggle. And it gave me all these topics and filters at the top, but there were buttons that didn't do anything. It just created the picture, but not much of it was actually functional. There was gallery, it didn't scroll. Again, this was kind of me being cheeky and asking for a lot. But I did think that maybe in future those models will project to say, oh, I do realize this gallery needs a working scroll bar, or I'm guessing these breadcrumbs at the top are things that must be clickable to do things. So I think even though it didn't work at that time a few weeks ago, it's probably going to be fine in the near future.
Yeah, then if in the future it's possible, hope it's possible that Power Apps also can become Power Pages. So then we see Guitar Store online. And I think AI is really good in understand technical syntax, but on the other side we have business logic. And what did you think? How good is AI understand business logic? And what is the role of developer in the future? Is it going more understanding the technical syntax, or is it more growing in the business logic?
The business logic is an interesting one because I found that when I've coded before basic things, so in Power Platform, we've got things like business rules where you could say, check this value and then, make a decision, almost like a visual flow diagram.
Mm.
Here's your decision, here's the yes path, here's the no path. You choose whether you show or hide a tab or something like that. Previously, when I've worked on some pro code systems, I've worked on things maybe with complex algorithms in different industries. And sometimes it's a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more like a big mathematical formula where you've got lots of brackets and edge cases and nested cases. And sometimes I find those can be, they might be a bit trickier to describe because it's more of a formula. Of course, you can upload a screenshot or a copy and paste a formula into these designers. But sometimes I find that that kind of niche business logic, those
Mm.
things that are a bit more complex, they really need thoroughly testing with, vibe coded systems of any kind, just because it may not interpret the brackets in the right order, or I may have not given enough context. So I think you're right. I think focusing on those business requirements, being specific with them as much as possible, whether they get supported by diagrams or screenshots, and lots of very clear text with clear context. That's probably where the future is going to go. We may even get to the future where why do we need to, as humans, review the code? Because we might just need to test to say, does the code do what we say it does? And no matter how that code's written, it doesn't matter because it works. So it may go that way in the future where, well, why am I reviewing the code if the GenAI is so much more powerful than my code anyway? Who's for me to say that, yes, I'm happy with this AI code? The AI might become so much smarter. I actually don't quite understand, how that code's been written, or it's a language I don't use very often, for example. So yeah, I've got a feeling it may go that way. We've got to get the business, the domain knowledge, and those rules, those skills that we build together. We've got to get those as accurate as we can, and then make sure the testing proves that it works.
Did you think prompt engineer becomes a core skill for platform makers, power platform makers?
Absolutely. Yeah, something like that. That prompt engineer, knowing good ways of architecting the prompts, some models like GCSE, ways of providing context and expectations, and so on. I think it's a good way. And as you say, it might not just be developers, it might be the people who then generate the documentation from it. It might be the people who are the project managers to say, well, if this part of the project stepping Copilot, something else, tell me what is the impact on future sprints because of this. So I think, yeah, that's just going to be, some cross, something, a skill that's going to be transferable to all different teams, all different roles.
Mhm. And how do you see the balance between low code, no code, pro code, and yeah, AI generated code or vibe code?
Yeah. It may be, I mean, I've seen from Microsoft recently in recent sessions where, again, not to get too specific, but the different types of Power Apps they've got, and there's a few now. The ones that I started with, Canvas apps, where you get the blank canvas, you drag and drop your control. And you're like, that was low code because, again, I'm not writing the code to put the controls on the screen. I drag and drop. Of, oh, this is so easy, right? And now I don't even need to do that. I just describe what I will, or upload a screenshot, or even scribble it on a piece of paper and then upload that, and then it does it. I've not even had to drag and drop. So it may be that that version of low code of Canvas apps may not be as relevant in future if all you need to do is describe it, or again upload a screenshot of something that you want and then it generates it. So why have I spent hours dragging and dropping and creating a nice layout if I can just explain the layout that I want? So I think, yeah, maybe that vibe code, that prompting approach is probably what's going to overtake a lot of these kind of manual experiences.
Mm. Yeah, I have also seen Microsoft demos, especially in Fabric, and it was awesome. They built ETL pipelines in seconds, minutes, and then I get it. And it doesn't do this way. This was, yeah, this was demo. I think, yeah, I think also this was a little problem if Microsoft have introduced Copilot. They show, oh, that's all on this, and then nothing works. So we're good.
Yeah, yeah. There's that danger of that version 1 of not being quite good. So was that with Azure Data Factory or something else for ETL?
Mm, yeah,
The demo. Yeah, was it ADLF or
um,
something?
yeah, and it's yeah. We tried them in the company, and it's oh god, it was,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, So and the bad thing on it was, the management. They get also shown it, and then they say, "Oh, yeah, no, we can all the systems build in 5 minutes." So and then they take much more longer. This was this
It's
was, I think this was a risk, and also some, yeah, people get a little bit worried about, because they show all the nice features to the management, and then the developers say, "Okay, here, now you can do it all in seconds." Um, but I think, um, it makes app development, definitely faster. Um, but when we think on bottlenecks in AI, um, wha what is, hmm so I think this was a little bit bad, what I say, but where, the biggest bottlenecks AI is removing from app development from your perspective?
That's a good one, actually. Really good question because I'm trying to think of bottlenecks where, again, if I'm in a Canvas app or somewhere where I've had to manually create the app, and this could go with a pro code, vibe coded app as well. I'm just thinking low code at the moment. Sometimes I can spend a lot of time on the layout. I want this app to be responsive. It's got to work in portrait, landscape on multiple devices. And if I've not done it for a while, I might be tinkering around with containers and other ways of kind of juggling the layout of things. And that is sometimes cumbersome. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of testing to make sure it works fine, but I can explain it. I can describe it quickly, or I can even sketch some designs, some wireframes quite quickly. But the actual implementation of things like that, it can still take a long time and a lot of time to test. So I think things like that, where maybe it's a process that takes a long time to do, even if it's not difficult or complex, it's just like a lot of work, a lot of trial and error, and making sure it works as expected. I think bottlenecks like that, things that are going to take a long time, if you could describe, say, well, here's a few screenshots of the app on different devices in different portrait landscape modes, make the layout like that. If something like that is strong with vibe coding, then that is just going to naturally save a lot of time to get to the same result. And I think a lot could be said as well, that, the same for code. Were you doing the same thing again and again? Like, I need to submit this form. I need to make sure it's saving the data, it's saving new records, it's updating existing records. Instead of me doing that on lots of different screens in a very, very similar way, if there's a way I could just explain it and it does it, again, it's just going to save so much time to do that.
For a few days, I have talked to Lucas Pavelka. He has built a tool, Figma for Power Apps. I don't
Oh,
know if you
cool.
know it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and when you see, or how much faster can teams realistic build, yeah, with all this modern Power Apps tooling?
Uh, I'm sorry, say again.
How much faster did you think, yeah, teams can build with all these modern tools, Power Apps? Is how many time they can save? Is there something you have can say?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a good point because there are so many like new options now. Where before, for a while, it was canvas apps with drag and drop and writing of code and model driven apps, which are very quick, very powerful. I think model driven apps at the moment, they're still quick to build the core of them, but then we can extend them with generative pages and maybe even vibe code any kind of client side JavaScript that we might need. So again, I think there's a vast saving on some of those additions, those extras for the model driven app, where the Canvas app experience, as much as I loved starting that way, there's still a lot of manual work there. I think the Canvas app one is now going to be much faster by using something like a code app or a vibe app, because now you're essentially, for the most part, using prompts to build the whole thing. That's probably where the biggest time saving is, and it will continue to go, I think. So again, whether you can save hours or days, it's going to be on a big scale, I think, for Canvas apps, to the point of even going the Canvas app route. Is that going to take too long if you could just create a vibe app by writing one prompt and then waiting a few minutes instead of spending days to build it? So I think the Canvas app experience is the thing that's probably going to be impacted the most.
Mm, and what advice could you give companies they will scale or start with citizen development?
With citizen development, it's interesting because I'm working on that with a customer of mine at the moment. And the whole point is Power Platform governance and adoption. So we want them to use the tools more, use licenses that the organization has, but also we're doing things like training sessions. I've got one later today about Power Automate, actually, about approvals. And it's like, understanding the art of the possible, understanding what what the platform can do, but also being up to date with these new additions of, again, the vibe coding, the vibe apps, the ways you can just generate things and trying to do it well. And I think the more we rely on AI to write the code, the more important it is to make sure the testing is solid. Because if I've not written the code and I just think, well, I hope that works, when we test it, like a test driven development, a TDD approach, we really know that, hey, the code that's been written for those 3 pages of code, it really does work as I expect. So I think more is on validating that the results of the vibe code experience for low code, it really does work as expected.
Um, we have also talked about governance, and I think AI have made it, I think, a big topic. But how should business approach governance without killing innovation?
There's always a
Mm,
fine balance with that. And that's a great point where with Power Platform, we've got things like data loss prevention, DLP. So
mm,
we can create these data policies to say, hey, I want them to use the data platform called Dataverse. I want them to use SharePoint lists, but I don't want them to use Google Drive or something else or something else. So really, depending on the organization and what you do want to allow, what you don't want to allow, there's a great way that that governance model that's been in place for a long time now, we can actually be configuring those so we can allow people within the organization, whether it be, I don't know, Yan in accounts, or whether it be, Michael in HR. They're not technical, they can create their own things, but also they don't have the risk of doing the wrong thing or accessing data they shouldn't or breaking something that they shouldn't. They should just be able to play in safety, experiment, and build solutions that work for them. So I think you're right. Getting the governance right, all these different ways of locking down to make sure it's safe, where they build is in a safe environment and it's development or, not in the production environment to start with. It's really important to get that right, so then we can just empower them, train them, coach them if they want it, so they can just get up and running and build what they want for their own solutions. So, yeah, keeping that approach, they're not coming to a small team of developers. They can self-serve, they can help themselves. So, yeah, I think that's super useful if they can.
Yeah, I think as MVP, you can give Microsoft product managers some advice what they should do when they should something add tomorrow to the Power Pages. What should it be?
To our pages. Ooh,
Oh,
okay.
Power Apps. Sorry.
No, no, it's good because I mean they're both good systems. I mean, Power Pages is again for for listeners' background is a way of creating websites using low code, and quite recently as well we've got some extra features where you could open up the pages in using a plugin or using Visual Studio Code and actually then vibe code the Power Pages and play around with it quite. So instead of just the drag drop tools and some of the other features, you can open up Power Pages in your edit and use it that way. And then Power Apps, the internal web apps that you can use mostly within your organization. That's kind of a core one that I'm working with. Um, I think at the moment, let's say for Power Apps, I really like what Code Apps can do. So this is a relatively new addition that's gone generally available earlier this year. And it's a way of building a Power App by running a few command line prompts to get started. And then you can use a coding tool like Visual Studio Code to then either write code manually or vibe code experience to build out the Power App. And the great thing with it being a Power App is it sits within your organization, it follows your governance model. You need to sign in and authenticate using Microsoft Entra. It's got all of the good things about Power Apps, being safe within your org. But now you can vibe code it and make it pretty much do anything you want. While I think they're great, I think the starting point of running command lines and using coding tools, I mean, they are called code apps, is good, but that can still be quite intimidating for a lot of non-technical people. So again, if I spoke to, I don't know, Ingeborg in HR and, she's like, I've never used code. I don't know what code is, but you want me to install Node.js and use this thing called Visual Studio Code. It could be a bit of a steep learning curve for someone who doesn't want to learn coding. So I think if that experience could even start like the Vibex one as an actual prompt to get started with the option of then extending by opening a code editor if you want, that would probably be the best of both worlds. So I think, yeah, a true low code starting point for all options in Power Apps would be great.
And when we think about Power App developer, what makes a good one to a great one?
I don't know if I can advise on being a great one, but I'll give it my best, right? I think being a good Power App developer or software engineer is really having those requirements upfront and really understanding what you're building. So for me, when I'm working with customers and going on the journey, they might come to me or the organization, say, look, I really need an app that does ABC. And then the more I talk with them to find out what the root cause is, what the problem is they're trying to solve, it may be that they want an app built that just replicates what they have in Excel already. So it actually doesn't solve the problem. It just gives them a slicker process that runs in an app in the browser. But they've kind of just still kept it as a long running process with lots of clicks. Where in actual fact, it might be able to be automated or with a cloud flow or automated with some kind of AI approach. So kind of getting to the heart, having empathy, what the customer wants, where they're coming from, what their pain points are, and really understanding what their problem is, their business problem, uh, you know, is more important than how good your coding is or how strong your vibe coding skills are. I think really getting to what the customer wants, how you can help them, would then lead to choosing the right tools for the job.
Yeah. Okay. And now we came to another part of I do every show. It's I have steal some quotes from a Power Platform group, Power Platform user group. So and yeah, I will read it and give you a question. So the first I found was AI won't replace developers, but developers using AI replace those who don't. Um, what does that mean specifically in the Power Apps world?
It's a really good quote there. And I've heard similar ones before, like you say, it's AI not taking the job, someone using AI may. And I think back to that experience we talked about earlier, where if you coded manually from memory with some Googling and took days to create something that vibe coding could do in a few hours, if you compare them side by side, it's hard to say, well, why would you go for the longer, difficult manual approach without the assistance? And it's almost like these days to say, not using AI might be saying, well, I'm not using Google anymore. I'm not going to search online for anything. It's purely from memory, purely from the books on my shelf. I'm going to do it pure. I'm not going to use the AI way. But again, when you compare, and some of these AI tools are free or affordable, and they make such a vast difference to your productivity, it's hard to say why you wouldn't use those tools. So I think, yeah, using AI in some element, whether it's help you write the documentation, improve the requirements, or hey, tell me what to ask my customer to find out more, or even to write the code itself. I think AI is here to stay, and it's the way of the future.
The next one is the future of software is conversational. So did you think the future is really we only talk to Power Apps to create a app, or is there other
Could
skills?
do. Yeah, could do. I think more integrations that make it easy and frictionless. So, like we can for many things, Copilot or Visual Studio Code, with the chat window, you can just turn on the microphone and explain what you need. So that is a nice, easy way. I've not typed it, I've just said it. So that's great. And it may be that more integrations happen in future to say, well, if the customer's written their requirements down in a Word document, we just plug that Word document into Power Apps and it would generate it. Why be a middleman? Why be in the person in the middle when I can actually say just directly go through, and then it might even come back with questions, follow up questions like the planning mode can do to say, oh, this is good, but do you want it offline as well? Oh, that's good, but what devices are you using? You know what? So I think that kind of we might just be like, directors in the middle, like managing the traffic back and forth, but something like that just to keep it as seamless as possible.
Uh, And then I, I use this often because I found it funny in the interviews. Low code means low skills. No code means on point. What skill actually matter most today?
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard similar things before. Yeah, like the low code load, yeah, and so on. But um, I think yeah, knowing what the capabilities of the tools are really important. So with some of these tools, like with the Power App ones specifically, the Vibe apps, the generative pages, the code apps, these are three of the bigger things coming out at the moment that are getting more popular. Now, some of them only work with certain NPM packages for the geeky code side of what they're capable of doing. If I write a custom connector using C sharp, there's only so many namespaces in C sharp that I can use. So knowing that, hey, I can describe it and something gets built is good, but knowing where those limitations are, knowing what is possible with it is really important. It doesn't always mean that you have to get geeky and know to that kind of, geeky level, but knowing, oh, this one can deal with offline mode, this one cannot. That might then help me choose which one I'm going for. Or this one lets me use only Dataverse at the moment. This one lets me use any of the 1500 connectors. That's important because I want to use systems other than Dataverse. So I think staying up to date, keeping aware of the capabilities is more important than how good your code is being written. And that's useful as an architect to know, how you can design solutions for customers.
And then the last one, governance should be enable innovation, not block it. What does governance look like in modern organizations today?
Many of the organizations I've been working with, I really love that we're using tools where possible. Recently, the Microsoft created tool called the COE starter kit, which was used for governance within the Power Platform. That was recently announced that the development would be halted on that. So it's still available for people to use, but it's not going to be under active development. Things like that and other tools were useful for organizations to govern parts of the Power Platform and see things from a high level, high scale, and report on them. So maybe that we've got new things within the Power Platform Admin Center and other community built tools are actually going to be useful to handle that governance going forward. So I think a good use of the right tool for the right job, either internally created, a community created, or Microsoft provided, and just making sure they're kept up to date. And we kind of use the best tools for the job. That's really the way forward for strong governance, I think.
Okay, and now the rapid fire round. So I ask questions and 5 minutes, and we cook how many questions we get answered. So,
Yeah,
can
let's go.
Canvas apps or model-driven apps?
Model driven apps,
Favorite Power Platform feature right now?
code apps.
One Microsoft tool people are underestimating.
Oh, that's a great one. Power Pages, I think that could be used more.
AI features that blow your mind recently.
The new Claude Opus models, I think, super powerful.
Mm, Coffee, tea, or energy during development.
Oh, you're asking the big questions. Coffee every time for me.
One productivity habit you swear by.
Strong time management, blocking out the calendar to make sure you use your time effectively.
Biggest mistake new makers make.
Um, I think jumping in, trying to build before you've learned the basics, and then maybe learning lessons the hard way.
One powerful capability people should learn immediately.
Dataverse, super powerful.
um, Keeps our outlook.
On Outlook, oh, okay, now you're talking. So I think blocking out time so you can really manage your day and reminders. I use lots of reminders.
Yeah. Your favorite community event.
Oh, well, so many. I mean, I'm biased, but I would say the Power Platform Community High Five virtual user group that I run, I love it. We get some great speakers from all over the world.
Most exciting thing coming to Microsoft AI.
The most what? Sorry.
Hmm?
Uh,
The
I'm
most
s-
the most exciting thing coming to Microsoft mm, AI from AI perspective.
oh, great, thank you. Oh, wow, that's such a good one. I'd probably go back to code apps again. I think it's so powerful what we can do to create a power app using the AI features in GitHub Copilot.
Okay, and then the last one, the one word that describing the future of Power Apps.
Accessibility.
Great. So yeah, thank you for this last draw enjoying this route. This was really funny. Um what will you say? What are you most exciting about in the next years of Power Platform?
Uh, Over the next year, it's going to be really interesting because the pace of change is just getting faster and faster, right? And that there's it feels like it's a full-time job to keep up to date with everything. But I think these AI infused experiences, we see that's the way a lot of the Microsoft exams are going. There are a lot of like intelligent app builders and AI strategy. These kind of new roles, we can see that's where a lot of focus and probably investment is going. So I think whatever makes it easy for anyone in the world to be able to build an app or a solution, I really want to see how that experience gets even easier and more democratized for everyone. And then it really is truly then low code, no code. Anyone can build anything that they want. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to more capabilities in future.
Okay, and then my last question is, what should the people, when it's one thing from this session, what should they take with them?
I think The thing to take away really is have a look into those new Power Apps features, the ones that are using AI, the ones that let you build things quickly to impress your organization, your manager, your customers. And if you can use them and you get a lot of value to say, I could build a POC in minutes, I could build a new app page in minutes just by describing it, it might really inspire you and others to use it even more and get value from it.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, then I say thank you for staying here. This was a really, I really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much, and yeah, have a nice rest day, and yeah, goodbye.
So, my pleasure. Thank you, Mirko. Thanks so much.
See you. Bye.
Bye now. Bye.